What's up guys, it's Aaron from Aaron Anderson Photography. Today we're going to show you how to shoot the perfect 3-light portrait to put in any of your composites. So before we get started, I want to talk to you guys about a couple of things. One is the color of the background. Typically when I'm shooting a composite portrait and I don't know what the background's going to look like in the final product, I'm going to use gray. And that's for two reasons. One, I can make it brighter or darker. So depending upon if it's daytime or nighttime, we can change it to fit. Two, I can change the color. For the same reasons as before, it makes it more flexible and usable once you get into post-production. The second thing is tethering your camera. You really want to be able to see these images up close to check lighting and check focus. So make sure you're using some kind of software to connect your camera to your computer so you can see it on your screen. All right guys, so let's talk about lighting. Special thanks to Zach for coming in today and modeling for us. But I want to show you guys one of the most common 3-light setups in composite photography. That's using 2 edge lights and 1 top light for fill. Now, I cannot stress the importance of these edge lights enough. These are actually used to put shape onto the subject so that when we put them into a background, it doesn't look flat and like it's not supposed to be there. This top light is going to provide the fill you need to see the detail on the face and the body, but it's going to be the kind of light that falls off towards the bottom so it looks realistic in pretty much any background. So one of the things that's important when setting up a 3-light setup is setting up your lights one at a time. We've taken each of these edge lights and checked them before we started shooting to make sure that they were sitting just where we wanted. Now, if you wanted a composite that was a little less gritty, you could choose a bigger modifier like an octabox or a softbox, and the light would fall off a little bit better. If you haven't checked out our tutorial on lighting modifiers, I would look at that before you move on with this tutorial. The last piece of the lighting for this is going to be what's kind of a front top light. Today we're using a beauty dish, but it's also common to use a grid if you want to have that nice fill with fall off towards the bottom, which is what we're shooting for. Before we start shooting, I want to talk to you guys about one of the biggest mistakes that I see new composite photographers making, and that's not using enough lights to shape your subject. If we were to turn off either of these lights and have that side go dark, you would lose a lot of the shape, and when you put it into your final background, it would start to look really flat and out of place. Another quick tip is to shoot your subject from the waist up. One of the hardest things to composite into a background is going to be the feet and where the feet contact the ground. So to save yourself a little bit of a headache when you first get started, start shooting your models either from the waist up or from the chest up, and you'll find that it's a lot easier to get them to blend into your final background. All right, so we have all of our lights set up and we're ready to start shooting. Let's take a couple frames and see where we're at. Nice chin down a little bit too. Good. And these look awesome. You can see those edge lights creating a really nice shape around the outside of the subject, and that's going to help this composite look so much cleaner once we put it into the background. Now, a couple quick things. When you guys are setting up your lights, be picky. If it doesn't look quite right, then make the adjustment you need to make it look the way you want to. We've probably adjusted that top light 3 or 4 times just to make sure it's exactly where we want it to be for our final image. One of my favorite things about composite photography is being able to shoot a bunch of tiny details and put them together to make the perfect image. So one of the things that I want to do with this picture is to make sure that his goggles have a really nice reflection in them. To do that, we're going to shoot 2 pieces, and I'm going to have Savannah come in and put the reflector up so that we can get a really nice gradient that then we can put in Photoshop. So let's shoot one side and see how that looks. That's awesome. And you can see how it really created the nice color gradient that these goggles are supposed to have. Now we're going to go to the other side and shoot that as well. And that's great. So what we're going to be able to do now is take that reflection and composite it together to get that beautiful color that they manufacture these goggles with. If you're shooting a product for somebody or you're shooting for a client, this is the kind of stuff you want to be able to do so that you can give them all those nice little idiosyncrasies every time in your pictures. For our final shot, I'm going to change the position of the model just a little bit to show you guys a variation that you can use, and then to show you again how to put that gradient back into the goggles. So I've had Zach turn sideways, and it's going to give just a little more edgy look to it, but now we have these edge lights on the side, it'll light him up a little bit more and give it a little more grit and a little more texture. So let's shoot it and see what it looks like. And I actually like it a lot. But one of the things we need to do now is go back in and fill in that gradient so that we have the goggles that we can composite in. So I'll have Savannah come back in, and she's going to get really close. She'll even be in the frame. And that's totally fine because we're shooting a composite, so we don't have to worry about stuff like that. So let's shoot it and see what that gradient looks like. And I love it. It looks great. We have a lot of good color now that I can use and play around with in post and get those goggles looking exactly the way your client or your manufacturer would want it to look. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this episode. Huge thank you to Zach for modeling and my assistants, Brent and Savannah. Make sure you hit the like button, click subscribe, and until next time, be awesome.